Part 3. The Crawl. The journey across the 12 feet of her small bedroom to the door felt like crossing a continent. She moved on her knees then, realizing it was too slow and noisy, lowered herself onto her stomach. Using her elbows and toes, she began to inch forward, dragging her body across the floor like a wounded animal. The linoleum was unforgiving against her bare skin, scraping her knees, her elbows, her belly. Her bound wrists were a constant, throbbing agony, twisted awkwardly behind her. Each movement sent fresh jolts of pain through her shoulders. Sweat stung her eyes, mingling with the tears. Don't think, just move. The mantra pounded in her head with each painful inch. Window, air, escape. She focused on the sliver of light from the living room framing the door. The space beneath the door was dark. Was a shadow standing there, waiting? Her breath hitched. She froze, pressing her cheek against the cool floor, listening until her ears rang. Nothing, only the frantic pulse in her own temples. She pushed forward again. The door jamb. She edged past it into the living room. The flickering alley light was stronger here, casting long, dancing shadows that made the familiar furniture, the sofa, the armchair, the TV, look like crouching monsters. Her eyes darted wildly. The front door was to her left, bolted, chain on, too far, too noisy. The window overlooking the alley was straight ahead, past the small dining table. The flimsy curtains were drawn, but she could see the outline of the latch. Part 3. The Crawl. The journey across the 12 feet of her small bedroom to the door felt like crossing a continent. She moved on her knees then, realizing it was too slow and noisy, lowered herself onto her stomach. Using her elbows and toes, she began to inch forward, dragging her body across the floor like a wounded animal. The linoleum was unforgiving against her bare skin, scraping her knees, her elbows, her belly. Her bound wrists were a constant, throbbing agony, twisted awkwardly behind her. Each movement sent fresh jolts of pain through her shoulders. Sweat stung her eyes, mingling with the tears. Don't think, just move. The mantra pounded in her head with each painful inch. Window, air, escape. She focused on the sliver of light from the living room framing the door. The space beneath the door was dark. Was a shadow standing there, waiting? Her breath hitched. She froze, pressing her cheek against the cool floor, listening until her ears rang. Nothing, only the frantic pulse in her own temples. She pushed forward again. The door jamb. She edged past it into the living room. The flickering alley light was stronger here, casting long, dancing shadows that made the familiar furniture, the sofa, the armchair, the TV, look like crouching monsters. Her eyes darted wildly. The front door was to her left, bolted, chain on, too far, too noisy. The window overlooking the alley was straight ahead, past the small dining table. The flimsy curtains were drawn, but she could see the outline of the latch. He could be anywhere. The thought was paralyzing. Behind the sofa? In the tiny kitchenette to her right? The closet by the front door? The silence was a physical thing, pressing down on her. She held her breath, straining to hear any sound. A creak, a footstep, a breath. Nothing. Just the distant city hum and the crickets. Had he truly left? Or was he playing with her? Move. Now. The survival instinct screamed louder than the fear. She resumed her agonizing crawl across the living room floor. The rough Berber carpet scraped her skin raw. Her elbows screamed in protest. Every fiber of her being expected a hand to clamp down on her ankle, a shadow to fall over her. She kept her eyes locked on the window. Almost there. Almost. She reached the wall beneath the window. Relief, sharp and sudden, almost made her sob. She pushed herself up onto her knees, her back against the wall, her bound hands trapped painfully behind her. The window sill was level with her chest. She turned her head, pressing her ear against the cool plaster wall, listening. Still nothing inside the apartment. Outside, the familiar sounds of the night. A car engine starting a block away, a distant siren, the crickets. Normal sounds. Life sounds. Now, do it now. She twisted her body, using her shoulder and the side of her head to nudge the thin curtain aside. The window was old, painted shut in places, but the latch? She could see it, a simple lever lock. Please God, let it open. She strained against her bindings, trying to bring her hands around. The cord cut deeper, sending waves of fiery pain up her arms. Impossible. She couldn't reach it with her hands tied. Despair threatened to engulf her. She was trapped. At the window, but unable to open it. She leaned her forehead against the cool glass, tears of frustration joining the sweat and terror. Think, Melinda, think. She looked down at her body. Her feet, bare, useless for the latch. Her mouth? She twisted her neck, craning her head back. Could she bite it? The latch was just above her head level when kneeling. She strained upwards, her neck muscles protesting. Her teeth brushed cold metal. She couldn't get purchase. It was too high, the angle impossible. A sound. Inside the apartment, a soft creak. From the bedroom doorway, Melinda froze. Blood turned to ice in her veins. Her breath stopped. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, she turned her head just enough to look back over her shoulder towards the dark rectangle of the bedroom door. A silhouette filled it, tall, utterly still, watching her. Those eyes, reflecting the faint alley light, empty, knowing. He hadn't left. He'd been waiting, watching her crawl, playing with his prey. The silent scream that tore through Melinda's mind was the sound of pure, unadulterated terror. There was no time left. No choice. Only the window. Cold night air rushed in, smelling of garbage and freedom. The hole was jagged, big enough. She didn't look back. Didn't think. She launched herself forward, headfirst, through the broken window, towards the unforgiving concrete 2 stories below. No, just let it. Part 4. The fall time didn't slow. It fractured. One moment she was pushing through the jagged teeth of broken glass. The cool night air, a slap against her sweat-slicked skin. The next, gravity, that indifferent executioner, took hold. There was no trajectory, no controlled descent. She tumbled, a ragdoll flung from a height, her bound hands rendering her utterly helpless to orient herself. The world became a sickening blur. The streaked yellow of the alley light, the looming black rectangle of the dumpster below, the dizzying spin of brick walls and starless sky. The impact was not a single sound, but a symphony of destruction happening within her. A sickening, wet crunch vibrated up her right leg as it slammed into the uneven concrete edge of the dumpster first. Bone yielded with a horrifying finality. Simultaneously, her left shoulder connected with the dumpster's rusted metal side, a hollow, metallic bang echoing in the narrow alley. Her head snapped forward, shin hitting her collarbone with jarring force. White light exploded behind her eyes, momentarily blinding her internal landscape to the external agony. She didn't scream. The air was driven from her lungs in a silent, agonized rush. She landed in a twisted heap on the filthy concrete beside the dumpster, the world reduced to a single overwhelming point of sensation. Pain. It wasn't localized. It was a tsunami. It roared up from her shattered right leg, a white-hot, grinding inferno that consumed her from the ankle to the hip. It radiated in deep, throbbing waves from her left shoulder, the joint feeling dislocated, pulped. It hammered in her skull from the chin impact, a dull, insistent pounding behind her eyes. It screamed from the 1,000 tiny cuts the broken window glass had inflicted as she plunged through, arms, torso, face, each one stinging like fire ants. And beneath it all, the deep, earning ache of the cord biting into her wrists, the raw scrapes covering her knees, elbows, and belly from the crawl. For a timeless moment, she simply existed within the pain. Consciousness flickered. The rough texture of the concrete beneath her cheek registered vaguely, cold and gritty. The stench hit her next, a putrid cocktail of rotting food from the overflowing dumpster, stale urine, and the metallic tang of her own blood. Warm and sticky where it welled from the cuts on her face and arms and cooled beneath her ruined leg. The alley light above buzzed like an angry insect, its harsh yellow glow painting stark, elongated shadows. She heard the frantic skittering of rats retreating into the darkness, heard the muffled thump of bass from a car stereo blocks away, heard the ragged, wet gasps that were her own attempts to breathe through the agony constricting her chest. Move. The command pierced the pain fog, faint but insistent. He's coming. He's coming down. The image of those empty eyes watching from the doorway flooded back, colder than the concrete. Terror, sharper than any physical pain, injected a surge of adrenaline into her veins. He was still up there. He would come down the stairs, find her broken at the bottom, and finish what he started. She couldn't die here. Not like this. Not in this filthy alley, discarded like garbage. Luz's smiling face from the framed photo swam before her mind's eye. Move. She tried to push herself up with her elbows. Agony ripped through her left shoulder, a red-hot lance that stole her breath and made her vision swim again. She cried out, a thin, animal sound lost in the alley's ambient noise. Her right leg was useless, a grotesque, angled thing. She could see the jagged end of her tibia, tenting the skin just above her ankle. Stark white against the darkening blood soaking her skin and the concrete beneath. Nausea surged, bitter bile burning her throat. She choked it down. No time. Crawl. Using only her left arm and her good left leg, she began to drag herself away from the dumpster, away from the base of the stairs leading up to her apartment. The movement was excruciating. Every shift sent fresh waves of agony radiating from her broken leg. Her shoulder screamed. Glass fragments embedded in her skin tore deeper as she scraped across the rough ground. She left a dark, glistening trail on the concrete. Blood, sweat, alley grime. The distance to the mouth of the alley, where it met the slightly better lit street, seemed impossibly far. 20 feet? 30? It felt like miles. She focused on a crack in the concrete ahead, and a discarded beer can, and a patch of oil stain, tiny, achievable goals. Behind her, from above, a sound cut through her ragged breathing. A window sliding open. Her window. She froze, pressing her face into the gritty concrete, squeezing her eyes shut. Don't look. Don't breathe. She could feel his gaze sweeping the alley, landing on the glittering shards of glass, tracing the smeared trail of blood, finally settling on her broken, crawling form. Was he smiling? Was he disappointed she wasn't dead? Or was his face still that terrifying mask of calm observation? She didn't dare look. Seconds stretched into an eternity. The pressure of his unseen stare was a physical weight, crushing her. Would he come down? Would he simply watch her bled out? Would he laugh? Then, a different sound, not from above. From the street end of the alley. A door slamming. Heavy footsteps on pavement. A man's voice, thick with sleep and irritation. The hell was that? Sounded like a damn trash can exploded.